Windham-Bannister and the chair of the National Board of the Association for Women in Science. And it is my tremendous honor today to have an informal fireside conversation, it's fireside chat as we call them, with Her Royal Highness Princess Dr. Nisreen El-Hashemite. I think there are so many wonderful things that we can talk with her about today. And so, Your Royal Highness, I want to thank you very much for your time and for all of the work that you're doing as a great international activist around gender equity in the sciences. May I start by asking if you would tell us a little bit about your journey? You are the only colleague I have to whom I refer as Princess Doctor. And I think it would be wonderful for all of those who are listening into our conversation to understand what was your pathway into the sciences and what really made that possible for you?
Well, first of all, thank you very much indeed for having me. It is a great pleasure to join you today, and as well to to be with you, Dr. Susan, and with the colleagues from AWIS. I will start with a little background about me. I am the only girl among three brothers. I have three brothers who are older than me, and I am the youngest. So imagine to grow up with three boys that each one of them wants his sister to be the most perfect everything. So my brothers started, the older brother, when he used to teach me, or to show me a bit about chemistry or about physics. The other brother will show me a bit about how to fix, he's an engineer actually now, but how to fix something, like to put this wire with that wire, etc. So, and how to fix, for example, the tire in the car, because how it works, how the wheel works in the car, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the third brother, he will teach me everything related to arts, but as well, when you need to do anything related to arts, it should have like a scientific dimension, because the lights, and this is physics, then you need to add those waters with the oil colors, etc. So it is actually chemistry. So they made me love science since I was a little girl. Then it was why I went in, or I was so keen to be a doctor. I have allergy for pets. So, and I love pets, but actually every time I touch a pet, we'll go to the doctor. My doctor was a wonderful gentleman, bless him. He used to give me Kit Kat, and he had beautiful smile. He used to make me smile, even if I will take the injection, but I will smile. I won't feel the pain. So for me, I used to say, I'm gonna be a doctor to put a smile on people's faces. So I started, that dream continued with me, and I was an A student all the time. My mother was strict about education. A title doesn't make you anyone. Education make you who you will be, who you want to be. So I went in, decided to go into medicine. Some people think that as a royal princess, life is easy, but actually life is really difficult for us, because like we have social commitments. We have really work to do for our people, and for me, like my mother put me in, since I was 14 years old, in public service, like to serve those who are in need, like to volunteer my time for children, etc. And that was like important as well, to make us value that we are not living on a title, but we are serving the title. Particularly, as you may know, I am direct descendant of Prophet Muhammad of Islam. Yes. And for us, the honor from God to be direct descendant of Prophet Muhammad means that we are servant of a humanity. We have to serve a humanity, full stop. So actually, this is our mission in life.
But I love your mother's perspective about your serving the title as opposed to the title serving you. And that clearly has very much informed your choices.
Indeed, also to grow up in a house when my father established the Royal Academy of Science International Trust, my father paid, like the main reason was to invest in future leaders, which was through the scholarship system. So my father educated more than 21,500 individuals. Half of them were women. And my father was a great supporter for everything related to women. Mm-hmm. My mother, to grow up in a house that my mother has a monthly salon where women experts to come and speak, rather than the men experts, so to grow up in a house to see women experts in all fields speaking, not like poetry or literature, but like in medicine, in pharmacy, in engineering, etc. And to see, like that atmosphere, surrounding me. This also encouraged me to continue and to come over any obstacle and to achieve my dream, which is very important as well.
So Princess Dr. El-Hashemite, I know that at a certain point you decided to move away from your work in the clinic. As you said, you have an MD, you have a PhD, your field is human genetics. That you really transitioned to focus very much on your activism around gender equality. And you have what I think is a very wonderful and interesting perspective on the importance of women finding our own voice. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. I mean, what you see as the role of women in science, in policy making, the social responsibility that we have. Would you share your perspective on that, which I think is, as I said, just fantastic?
In the year 2000, the United Nations started the Millennium Development Goals, that they were 8 goals directed towards developing countries, like elimination of infectious diseases, gender equality, education for all, women's health, etc. So when you look at through the years, I was following up all these things. My work in genetics and mainly pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, which is much more connected to reproductive health. Mm-hmm. So I saw that actually those who are talking about women's health, they directed it into much more social aspects. It has nothing to do with women's health, because they are not experts, actually, those who are running these amazing programs, number one. Number two, that when they talk about women's health, through my research at Harvard Medical School, I was working on also the 6 differences in health and illness. Mm-hmm. And then I just realized that the international community is talking about gender, rather than the 6 differences in health and illness. Mm-hmm. And they put everything related to women's health into one point. Mm-hmm. Which is just reproductive health, neglecting the World Health Organization reports that there are so many diseases more severe in women than in men. Yes, of course, like the United States of America is the most advanced in this field, in women's health, from the 6 differences, which are the biological, to the gender differences, which are the social economic differences. And I saw that when we spoke to policymakers about this, like nobody knows about it. Then also you have so many other issues related to infectious diseases, HIV, malaria, etc. And I also like the bombing using depleted uranium in the bombs, that it interferes with the change the patterns of any living organism, the genetics of any living organism, etc. So I was asking questions, who decides what?
Yes, yes.
And this is the biggest question. Then we had, as you may recall, during George W. Bush time, when it was the time about the stem cell research, you know, whether to continue or not to continue.
Right.
Then I just realized that we have a big problem here. We experts did not make our voices heard.
Mhm.
We are just sitting in our laboratories, in our offices, in our faculties, in our companies. And I don't blame policymakers because we did not go there and telling them.
Mhm.
So it was somebody has to do this thing. Decided to leave science and medicine and go into, actually what made me going into this field was I received an offer from Razet for to join them as the executive director. And I said, well, it is time now. Somebody has to speak out. Somebody has to bring the voices of experts. Believe me how much difficult it was not to leave only science, which I very much, if you want to see Nisreen with her smile, her speaking from her heart, enjoying time, life, it is whenever she is in her laboratory.
In the lab.
But actually, you know, I saw myself talking to policymakers. When I say 6 differences and they say to me, oh, gender differences. No, the 6 differences are the biological differences. And they did not want to accept it because they took something, you know, like women's health became like the right, or reproductive health became just like the right for abortion only.
Yes, yes.
Rather than, you know, that branch of medicine, which is very, very important,
Right.
you know. So anyway, I started my journey with the policy making and to invite as well scientists and women in science into the international arena and speak as an expert. It was at the beginning when you used to go to the UN, mainly you will see either women less than men, percentage that women in STEM less than men. Okay, then you will see just mainly men speaking about women in science rather than, you know, women experts are speaking, or in any issue, whether it is for diseases, whether it is for environment, whether it is, imagine the United Nations in 2016 had only one chief scientist who is a woman. It was really difficult at the beginning. But then when when we launched the World Women's Health and Development Forum to discuss, at that time, that was in February 2015, and we were talking about women's health and development from economic point of view, in science, in you know, capacity building, all these things. So we brought, you know, like it was the post 2015 agenda discussion, which is now known as the Sustainable Development Goals or the 2030 agenda. So where is the voice of women? We have voices. So when we we invited amazing women and as well men to speak about women's health. So everybody at the UN were so amazed, like women experts coming here and speaking loudly. If you talk about nutrition, we raise the issue of mental health, media, the role of media. We raise the issue of refugees. We raise the issues of science and researchers, as well as the issue of finance, science to business. So many issues were raised. And also that was the youth, female youth were in there. When we received a letter of congratulations from the President of General Assembly at that time, I wrote back to him that, well, most of the women speakers, whether from at ministerial level, at governmental level, at ambassadorial level, or at academic or business media level, they all were, most of them were women experts. And then I called for implementing one of the points which is to recognize the role of women in science in the Sustainable Development Goals, because you cannot have sustainable development without women, and in all fields. And then the journey of February 11 started from here with the negotiation with member states. And thanks to Malta, who gave us the first support, because we needed a government just to sign.
Right.
And then all governments, more than 70 governments joined actually, which is really amazing. And I have here to say one important point. When people were talking, people thought that actually this is just because I'm a princess, or the science princess as they call me. I want this international day. But then I said, no, we are speaking on behalf of all women organizations. The first organization with all its members to respond in support of the International Day, it was the Association of Women in Science, AWIS. And I'm very proud of that, because the moment we said the first organization is AWIS, everybody looked at me with all its members agreeing, And when I read the letter we received, everybody was saying, okay, we will start the informal discussion in the resolution.
Well, we thank you for that. And we were very proud, to be a participant, to be a supporter. And certainly we at AWIS recognize so much of what you're saying, how many experts we have in science who happen to be women, and the importance of the role that we at AWIS can and should play, I think even more so, in making our members, providing access, making the broader community aware of all the expertise that resides within our members. The AWIS membership represents a tremendous amount of expertise in the science.
We brought the recognition, the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Now it became like whether a trend, a global trend, worldwide. Even companies now, they are celebrating their women in science, governments, etc. But also the most important thing, the role of women in science in the society. Like, we need women in science to leave their laboratories, their departments, and I'm not saying to leave it forever, but no, when there is an important event, for example, about agriculture at the United Nations, or there is an important event in the government of the United States, or in Europe, or in any part of the world, women in science should participate as experts to be heard. They should have the say in formulating policies, in letting policymakers know the solutions for world challenges, and also to be involved in every aspect. It is not just we need to increase the number of women in laboratories or in academia. It is much more, we need to increase the number of women in participating, from drafting policy, from advising governments or policymakers or private sector multi-stakeholders, all the way to the social responsibility with schools, with community, giving services. So
do you think that is an issue of women not seeing ourselves as experts the way that we should, or do you think it's that we aren't invited, we aren't included in those discussions? What do you think explains the fact that we are not as visible as experts?
Well, either they are too much busy in their work and they don't have time. My agenda doesn't. Like, I remember we invited some women presidents of universities who are also happened to be in science for the first International Day. The resolution was adopted in December, and the first day was in February 11. So imagine we had only just avoiding, the Christmas period and New Year period. So like everything started from the first week of January. And, the 4 female presidents of universities, we invited them. They said, our agenda is booked 6 months in advance. So some of this is something that we need women to think about. Okay, when you are invited, because the international community, their events are not planned a year ahead.
Yes, yes.
It depends on the needs. There are certain events we know it's time, like 3-4 events, but not everything. Also, if you don't take the initiative to give your time, then the others will not invite you. They will invite you once, twice, but then they will say, oh, the women in science will not come. The second thing is that actually so many women in science don't believe that they can make a change.
I think that the points that you're making are so important, Your Royal Highness, because very often I think that women focus on the external barriers that we face and maybe don't always look at some of the barriers that we create for ourselves. As you're just saying, do we make ourselves available? Do we try to find the time? Do we see ourselves as experts and put ourselves forward as experts? I think these are some very interesting insights that you're sharing right now.
Like it is now much more. If I will talk about February 11 impact internationally, it was like it increased the courage or the confidence, I would say, within women to come out and speak. Before, when in the second day, we discussed about the role of media. So many media agencies around the world, they will say, oh, we invite women, but they don't come as experts. Let's assume this is right. But okay, why we do not go there? Why we do not show our faces? Why we do not show our talent? Why we don't want to be role models for others? Also, I would say now the impact, because we start to be recognized as experts, as professionals, rather than just calling for, I just want to be equal. No, we are recognized by our achievements. And this is the thing that I insisted on, that actually we are equal. God created us equal in rights and duties, full stop. This is my belief, and this is how it should be. But there is one thing, we are talking about our achievements here. So, and this encouraged as well to increase the idea of the importance of science in all international work. Like if you talk about the politics that we have, either it is education, health, environment, agriculture, food, water, ecosystem, etc. So it is mainly science. It's mainly, So we have the experts, and we can say this can be done in this way, or this cannot be done in your proposed way, but the solution should be 1, 2, 3. And also we need to bring that the solutions, whatever is suitable for that particular society, not necessary to be suitable for other societies. So actually we brought several things here into the mind of women, that women start to be recognized with their achievements, which is very important, to be heard, they are more confident that they will be heard and appreciated, because it is always about the appreciation.
Yes.
And also the governments itself start to look at women as diplomats, women in science as diplomats, much more as in policy making, etc. Now, as you said, with the COVID-19 issue, we start to see so many amazing women, not only on TV, but how many women scientists are leading research, which is very important. and as well like so many women economist experts, so many women experts on several issues. So this is very important. Now it is for us to continue and to further develop this prospect.
Yes, there have been, it has really been wonderful to see how many women experts are leading so much of the research that's going on right now around COVID-19, be it around why health disparities are affecting this, be it work towards a vaccine, be it work towards new drug therapies. It is really exciting, and I think that you're making some very interesting points. Do you think that we're making progress, Your Royal Highness, from your perspective, because you see all this from a global stage? How are we doing against the issues that you've been raising in our conversation today?
We are doing great progress, a lot. What a big difference 7 years ago and now. And by the way, my involvement in the issue of women in science started in '98. When I just found that my salary was less than my male colleague's salary because of the gender, because of, you know, like I'm female, he's male. Yes. With the same qualifications, same working hours, and sometimes I work more, you know, etc. But actually, there is it started with me in this way, but then I just start to realize that we are moving into, like, there are so many other issues, like whether it is the cultural barriers, whether it is the curriculum, whether it is the encouragement role models, you know, like the recognition, all of these things. But if you compare, you know, like few years ago and now, we are making a huge progress, you know, and this is very, very important. And some women at the beginning, they told me, why the UN will not give us anything. I'm not saying that the UN will give us anything, but the charter of the Constitution of the United Nations starts by we, the peoples. So actually, it is for us, we, the peoples, you know, to decide what the other governments should say. I am one of those we, the peoples. So it is my right. And now they start to see the confidence, the international or the global policy. It is like it brings certain issues or raise certain issues with some solutions. But then we have to go through the governments. For example, in Spain, for the last 3 years in Spain, they organize throughout Spain more than almost 3,000 events. You know, also one of the important things that I saw in Spain, that the shops start to decorate their windows on February 11. Each shop will choose a woman in science from Spain to recognize. Wonderful. Even the streets advertisements, the cities, you know, where the bus stops.
Right, you see them on the buses.
Yeah, they will put a name of a woman in science. So actually, now we have universities in Europe and in other countries naming the laboratories after the professor who worked in that, whether she's with us alive or left us in this life, you know, but they start to name laboratories after women in science. And this is now a global progress. Also,
very exciting.
You know, we start to see that, you know, they start to, even in other countries, they start to put, like the National Academy of Science, for example, women in science start to be on the board.
Yes,
also the rights of, yeah, also the rights of disabled, you know, yes, women in science and recognized. We raised it several times through Deaf Women in Science since 2017. till last February, and that was by itself incredible. So actually, you can see how many people, like the Royal Society here, start to recognize the disabled women in science in Britain. So actually, we are doing a huge progress, and you cannot imagine when I'm so, like happy that even the girls, I can see it from the girls,
Yes.
they are much more now into science. Even the boys, they are recognizing that, oh, my science teacher.
Yes.
When they start talking about a scientist in their, I know this from my nephews, when they
Yes.
write their papers and refer to, like, and as an example, they will refer to a woman in science.
Yes, yes, exactly. So a scientist is no longer tied to a specific gender, which is really
Indeed.
fantastic.
Indeed.
So I have heard you today in our conversation encouraging us to be bold, encouraging us to use our voices, encouraging us to make the time to be visible, encouraging us to think about, in addition to maybe our lab work, maybe our day-to-day business responsibilities of the business of science, but to think about our social responsibility, to think about the roles that maybe we could be playing more in policy and other kinds of activism. In our time that we have left, which always goes by, time always goes by so quickly. So it's exciting to hear the progress that you are sharing with us. Where do you see us going next? What messages would you like to leave us with about the future and the direction in which you would like to see women who are in sciences go forward? What next? What are you going to be doing? What would you like to see us do?
I can see governments now in their embassies or missions, diplomatic embassies or missions, employing women in science as experts, because we need women in science and in diplomacy. The world is going so crazy now in all aspects. So in different ways, from the pandemic to economy to leadership, etc. So I can see more women leaders, and to be a leader, not necessarily to be a president or prime minister, but
Right.
to take the lead in many ways. This is like what I can see now. And this is for employing, like the outcome document of last February event. We asked member states, and member states committed into this to employ, women in science experts in their diplomatic missions. I also would like to see Women in Science Council. The last thing I would like to see is that we will have one voice. So like Women in Science to come together, to work hand in hand together rather than to compete with each other. We are not competitors, we are supporters.
Yes, supporters.
So, if I have a Women in Science International League, you have an Association of Women in Science, you have a Society of Women in Science, you have an Organization for Women in Science. We're supposed to go at least, to come together to draw policy, a framework, action plan on how to move forward in order to leave a legacy for the girls. So when it comes their time, they will be called only scientists. The last thing I would like to see that or that I'm very much hoping for, that we need highly educated women as mothers to rebuild society.
Women shape the future generations.
Indeed.
Yes.
So
Yes.
actually, this is what we really need.
These are wonderful, optimistic ideas and hopes that you are leaving us with today, Princess Dr. Nisreen El-Hashemite. We will be watching you. You know, you have been a first around so many things. So there's so many of us who are sort of following in your footsteps and following the path that you're setting for us. It was truly an honor for us at AWIS to recognize you for all of your accomplishments. And I know I speak for those of us at AWIS, and I'm sure everyone who is listening to our conversation. We hope that we can find ways to continue to support you and partner with you in your important work. You have a wonderful vision, and we want to continue to realize that vision. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm so grateful. And of course, with your support, with your partnership, we will continue this journey. Girls who are listening, or the mothers who have girls, please don't say to your daughters, I don't want to be a princess, I want to be a scientist. You can be both.
You can
I
be
am
both. That's wonderful.
You can be a princess and a scientist. So I hope that Cinderella stories will be much more like the Cinderella who is dreaming to be a doctor, a physicist, an astronaut, who is doing a great work for those in rural areas, in schools. And last but not least, I would like to join the efforts of my nephew, Prince Zain El-Hashemite, about recognizing our science teachers. He's running a campaign for science teachers, and through you, I would like to say thank you for my science teachers who taught me everything that I know today. And thank you very much indeed.
It was a pleasure and it was an honor. Be well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.